Okay, I'm back. I'm making a part 2 of this. And because I'm on 3, section 3, an authority over globalization. On the way to building a more fraternal, who else uses that word a lot? What organization and group likes to use the word fraternal? And just human family, and even prior to that, a new humanism. And this is the lead, the first organized state church that's supposed to represent Christianity, pushing humanism, open to transcendence. Where do you find that in the Bible? Blessed John 23rd's teaching seems especially timely. In the prophetic encyclical letter Pacem in Terris, and I don't think I pronounced that right, it's spelled Paceminterris of 1963, he observed that the world was heading towards ever greater unification. He then acknowledged the lack of correspondence in the human community between political organization, quote, on a world level and the objective needs of the universal common good, unquote. He also expressed the hope that one day, quote, a true world political authority would be created, unquote, like the United Nations. In view of the unification of the world engendered by the complex phenomena of globalization and of the importance of guaranteeing, in addition to other collective goods, the good of a free, stable world economic and financial system at the service of the real economy in this perspective, the teaching of Pacem in Terris appears to be even more vital today and worthy of urgent implementation. Consistent with the spirit of that document of 1963, Benedict the 16th, or the emperor, himself expressed the need to create a world political authority, like the United Nations. This seems obvious if we consider the fact that the agenda of questions to be dealt with globally is becoming ever longer. Think, for example, of peace and security, disarmament and arms control. That doesn't. No, there's no agenda of elites wanting arms control and disarmament. Promotion and protection of fundamental human rights. Management of the economy. By who? Of course, the Council of Wise Men. And development policies. Probably Sustainable Development Agenda 21. Management of migratory flows and food security. Protection of the environment. Again, through Agenda 21. In all these areas, the growing interdependence between states. Interdependence is another buzzword of theirs when they're usually referencing global government. In regions of the world becomes more and more obvious, as well as the need for answers that are not just sectorial and isolated, but systematic and integrated, rich in solidarity and subsidiary, and geared to the universal common good. As the Pope reminds us, if this road is not followed, despite the great progress accomplished in various sectors, international law would risk being conditioned by the balance of power among the strongest nations. The purpose of a public authority, as John the 23rd reminded us in that Pacem in Terris, 1963, is first and foremost to serve the common good, or to control the common good. Therefore, it should be endowed with structures and adequate, effective mechanisms equal to its mission and the expectations placed in it. This is especially true in a globalized world, which makes individuals and peoples increasingly interconnected and interdependent. Again, that's like saying that the individual is more subservient to the whole. That's what they mean by interconnected. And interdependent means basically they're more dependent on internationally to the global society rather than to their individual sovereign nation. Okay, so which makes individuals and peoples increasingly interconnected and interdependent, but which also displays the existence of a monetary and financial markets of a predominantly speculative sort that are harmful for the real economy, especially of the weaker countries. This is a complex and delicate process. A supranational authority in this arena should have a realistic structure and be set up gradually, like the Fabian socialist method. setting it up gradually, not just in your face, and It should be favorable to the existence of efficient and effective monetary and financial systems, that is, free and stable markets overseen by a suitable legal framework, well functioning in support of sustainable development, Agenda 21, and social progress of all, and inspired by the values of charity and truth. And just the charity, the fake, phony charity. And truth, right. It is a matter of an authority with a global reach that cannot be imposed by force, coercion, or violence, but through deception, but should be the outcome of a free and shared agreement, right, and a reflection of the permanent and historic needs of the world common good. Having a small group of men decide what's best for us. It ought to arise from a process of progressive maturation of consciousness and advances in freedoms, as well as awareness of growing responsibilities. Consequently, reciprocal trust, autonomy, and participation cannot be overlooked as if they were superfluous elements. Consent should engage an ever greater number of countries that adhere with conviction through a sincere dialogue that values the minority opinions rather than marginalizing them. So the world authority should consistently involve all peoples in a collaboration in which they are called to contribute, bringing to it the heritage of their virtues and their civilizations. The establishment of a world political authority should be preceded by a preliminary phase of consultation from which a legitimated institution will emerge that is in a position to be an effective guide and at the same time can allow each country to express and pursue its own particular good. Yeah, right, I'm sure. The exercise of this authority at the service of the good of each and every one will necessarily be superparts or impartial, that is, above any partial vision of particular good, with a view to achieving the common good. Not the individual good, the common good. They're using sneaky language to make it sound good, but again, it's collectivism over individualism. Its decisions should not be the result of the more developed countries' superior power over weaker countries. Instead, they should be made in the interest of all, not only to the advantage of some groups, whether they are formed by private lobbies or national governments. A supranational institution, and they call this all a conspiracy theory still, this calling of United Nations authority over the world. But yet it's documented. The supranational institution, the expression of a community of nations, will not last long, however, if the country's differences from the standpoint of cultures, material and immaterial resources, and historic and geographic conditions are not recognized and fully respected. The lack of a consensus nourished by an unceasing moral communion on the part of the world community would also reduce the effectiveness of such an authority. What is valid on the national level is also valid on the global level. A person is not made to serve authority unconditionally. Rather, it is the task of authority to be at the service of the person, consistent with the preeminent value of human dignity. Likewise, governments should not serve the world authority unconditionally. Instead, it is the world authority that should put itself at the service of the various member countries, according to the principle of subsidiarity. And where am I at? Okay. Among the ways it should do this is by creating the socio-economic, political, and legal conditions essential for the existence of markets that are efficient and efficacious precisely because they are not overprotected by paternalistic national policies and not weakened by systematic deficits in public finances and of the gross national products. Indeed, such policies and deficits actually hamper the markets themselves in acting on the world stage as open and competitive institutions. In the tradition of the Church's magisterium, which Palpatine the 16th, or Benedict the 16th, has vigorously embraced, the principle of subsidiarity should regulate nations between the state and local communities and between public and private institutions, not excluding the monetary and financial institutions. Likewise, on a higher level, It ought to govern the relationships between a possible future global public authority and regional and national institutions. This principle guarantees both democratic legitimacy. That word democracy and democratic is really just code words for socialism, and the efficacy of the decisions of those called to make them. It allows respect for the freedom of people individually and in communities, and allows them at the same time to take responsibility for the objectives and duties that pertain to them. Can you believe this joke? According to the logic of subsidiarity, the higher authority offers its subsidium, that is, its aid, only when individual social or financial sectors are intrinsically deficient in capacity or cannot manage by themselves to do what is required of them. Thanks to the principle of solidarity, a lasting and fruitful relationship would build up between global civil society and a world public authority, as states, intermediate bodies, various institutions, including economic, financial ones, and citizens make their decisions with a view to the global common good, which transcends national goods. So it's given up our national sovereignty to this global political authority. As we read in Caritas in Veritate, quote, the governance of globalization must be marked by subsidiarity, articulated into several layers and involving different levels that can work together. Only in this way can the danger of a central authority's bureaucratic isolation be avoided, an isolation that would risk its being delegitimized by an excessive distance from the realities which underlie its existence and easily falling prey to paternalistic, technocratic, or hegemonic temptations. However, a long road still needs to be traveled before arriving at the creation of a public authority with universal jurisdiction. So this guy is really calling for the creation of a public authority with universal jurisdiction. He's really calling for a United Nations with universal jurisdiction. And all these idiots out there that are still calling us a conspiracy theorist really show just how ignorant they are, because it's beyond documented. But okay. It would seem logical for the reform process to proceed with the United Nations as its it would seem logical for the reform process to proceed with the United Nations as its reference, because of the worldwide scope of the UN's responsibilities, its ability to bring together the nations of the world, and the diversity of its tasks and of those of its specialized agencies. The fruit of such reforms ought to be a greater ability to adopt policies and choices that are binding, because they are aimed at achieving the common good on the local, regional, and world levels. Among the policies, those regarding global social justice, another group of words that are just sneaky, communistic words, seem most urgent. Financial and monetary policies that will not damage the weakest countries, and policies aimed at achieving free and stable markets and a fair distribution of world wealth, which really won't go to the world. It'll really go into the hands of the very New World Order people bringing us about, which may also derive from unprecedented forms of global fiscal solidarity, which will be dealt with later. And you know, I did like a couple videos in my previous channel on Anthony J. Hilder, and when I was so obsessed and focused on exposing the truth movement, maybe I went a little bit over the line by overly doing it too much and overly, I don't know, but he did say something, though, that I do definitely agree with, and that's certainly true. And he said that the communist revolution basically wasn't a movement of the masses to overthrow the rich. It was a movement of the rich to overthrow the masses. And boy, is he right with that. And all they got to do is just continuously promise that justice to the poor. And, you know, it'll never really happen. The rich that'll get attacked are just really kind of the low-level rich, not the super elites. It'll always just be the people that were rich because they worked for it. And there are those out there that made money off of a good idea that they had, a business they started, whatever. But those people will be the ones that they will take from, not from these scumbag bankster elites that create all this trouble. Anyways, I'm running out of time here. But however, a long road still needs to be traveled before arriving at the creation of a public authority with universal jurisdiction. I already read that. Okay, sorry. Okay. On the way to creating a world political authority, questions of governance, that is, a system of merely horizontal coordination without a higher authority, cannot be separated from those of a shared government, that is, a system which, in addition to horizontal coordination, establishes a higher authority, which is functional and proportionate to the gradual development of a global political society, New World Order. The establishment of a global political authority cannot be achieved without an already functioning multilateralism, not only on a diplomatic level, but also and above all in relation to programs for sustainable development and peace, Agenda 21. It is not possible to arrive at global government, New World Order, without giving political expression to pre-existing forms of interdependence and cooperation. And where am I at here? So, basically, you know, if I was able to get this half an hour in, I probably would have been able to finish this, maybe. Yeah. But I think I'll make a third video probably tomorrow. And, yeah. So I'm right here on section 4 of this from the Vatican. And, you know, by the way, you know, this is from the Catholic Church. This Bible I have right here, I made it early, one of my first videos on my main channel. I actually was showing this to show how the Catholic Church is Illuminati infiltrated. You know, but take a look at this shit. Got a little all-seeing eye right there. An actual Christian guy who has a YouTube channel. Can't think of his name. But the credit is due to him because he had the Bible and he showed that. And I'm the type of guy that it's not enough unless I have it right in my hands, right in view, and it's proof. Well, this is the Catholic Church that was set up like when the Vatican II Council or whatever was set up. So I think right around that period of time is when the Socialists and the Illuminati scumbags really started to infiltrate that church, and that was when they lifted the ban on Freemasons becoming Catholics, whatever. Not saying that the Catholic Church was a sweetheart before then, of course. No, they're just as freaking bad. You know, they want, either way, they want their New World Order. You know, they want to rule the world. So, you know, they're not any better. But I'm going to call this one good. And I'll make a part 3 tomorrow. And you know what? I am going to just go ahead. I was going to show you the clip of Pope Benedict XVI, Emperor Palpatine, and or Pope Palpatine. How's that? And another Pope calling for a new world order, clear as day. And you know, like I said, documented proof, irrefutable facts. Nobody can, you know, the enemy cannot stand toe-to-toe with all that. Especially when he keeps showering the enemy with, and this platform with information. The most I can do is take my videos down or ban me. They haven't really picked on me yet. They usually don't do anything to me unless I'm, you know, talking about the vaccines and stuff like that in a negative way, or the coronavirus, whatever. And so far so good. Have a good one.